watching Where Are They Now with your host, Dianne Hart. Now here's Dianne.
Welcome to Where Are They Now? I'm your host, Dianne Hart, and tonight I have the pleasure of interviewing a singer, a bass player, a producer, founder of the Motown Alumni Association, Mr. Billy Wilson. Good evening. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing wonderful. It's chilly and cold in Michigan.
That it is. Let's just jump right in. Where are you from?
I'm from Ypsilanti, Michigan. I was born in Ann Arbor, Michigan. My family and I moved to Detroit when I was young. Probably I was about 6 or 7, and we had to move because of urban renewal.
I remember it well. What schools did you attend?
I went to Ypsilanti High School, and I was a hangout person at Eastern Michigan University. That's sort of my play. That was my playground for a long time.
Okay. So now I know that you have sang, you played bass. Let me ask you this. When did you start singing? How old were you?
Probably about 8 years old. My father pushed me. It was similar to what the Jacksons had gone through. My father did exactly the same thing to me and my brothers and uncles that Joe Jackson did to his kids. I was the only one that pursued the career. I had 2 brothers and a sister. And the 2 brothers, my father used to stand us in line and he'd have a switch, and somebody do something wrong, say something wrong while we're singing. He'd hit us with that switch, So all of us knew how to sing very well by the time we got past that age.
Did you sing in the church choir or you just sang?
Oh, that was typical of all Black people. Yes, we had a choir called the Ypsilanti Community Choir. We were really, really good. And we didn't realize how good we were until we eventually went to Detroit. Detroit is about 35 miles from where we lived in Ypsilanti. And we played with many of the big stars of the time, Mattie Moss Clark and Mahalia Jackson and just James Cleveland. We sang in front of those people. And we had people that were comparable, we thought, to all of those people. They had major singers and big time stars. So we were a little bit cocky and confident. We were confident and competent.
Have you ever written any music?
Yes. As a matter of fact, even today I'm writing music right now, but my biggest accomplishment was with an artist called Spider D. He was a rapper in the 80s, the late 70s and early 80s. We had a song called Big Apple Rap, and the song became a cult hit with the hip hop world. And one of the reasons for that is because Spider D ended up being a producer for a song. Remember the Smurf dance? The young people used to do called the Smurf dance. He was the producer for that and the writer for that. But it was interesting how we got started.
Did you sing with the choir?
Yes. Actually, what started my career in the secular world, I was one of the choir members. So my father wanted me to be the lead singer. I wasn't really a good lead singer at all. I had this little girlfriend that I always wanted to impress. And she always sat next to me in the choir. Our voices were a little high, just like every kid's voice. So when I finally did sing my one little song, I got up there and I squeaked my way through it. And you know how people do in church, they go, "Oh, sing it, boy." You know, when people say, "Sing it, boy," that means you suck, but at least you tried. I was okay with that. What bothered me the most was I could hear my girlfriend snickering at me in the background. Out of all the people in the church, I heard her. When I went and sat back down, I dumped her.
Oh, you quit her at that point.
Yeah.
So now, after singing in church, you were 8 years old. When did you begin to sing secular music and move away from church?
That's what leads to my secular singing.
Okay.
Because then I decided I wanted to sing well because of her snickering at me. And so I practiced and I practiced and practiced. Eventually, my friend, his name was Tony Walker, he brought me in as the lead singer for his band. That's what I did for a moment.
How old were you at that point?
I want to say about 14, 15.
When did you get your first paycheck as a singer? How old were you?
14, 15. It was once I joined the band because I could sing better than everybody else in the band. So the parents of the people that allowed us to play in their garage, in their recreation room, they paid us because there were a couple of songs that I could sing really well. And they wanted to hear that song a lot. So they paid us. That was the first paycheck we had gotten. Oh, man, I was hooked then.
I bet. So then after singing, when did you begin to play the bass? How old were you when you started playing the bass?
14, 15 again. So what happened was Christmas time came around and my father bought me a little raggedy bass. Well, I couldn't play bass. I was the singer in the band. What he did was he thought that I would have been happy also playing an instrument. Well, I didn't care about that at the time. So what I did was I took that bass over to my bass player. He was playing a 4-string guitar for bass. Well, I had a real bass. So he took my bass and he could play behind his neck and behind his back and between his legs. He embarrassed me. That's probably the first and only time I've ever been embarrassed. Since then, I've never been embarrassed about anything. I took the bass back home and I played that bass. I only played like one blues song, 3-bar blues song. But the cool thing about 3-bar blues songs is that you could play 1,000,000 songs on a 3-bar blues song. The beauty of being able to sing is that while I was playing the bass, I was singing the song too. Now I'm the singer and the bass player. So when I went back, man, it took me about 3 months to learn how to play bass. And when I went back, I just tore it up. You couldn't tell me anything. So the guitar player and I were walking home from that rehearsal. He said, "Billy, look, you obviously have perfected this. What if we start a band?" He said, "I want to get away from that bass player and his environment." Of course, out of being, vindictive, I wanted to take that bass and run away with the guitar player, and that's what I did.
Okay, so now you're singing, you're playing bass. Now you're songwriting. Let's talk a little bit about your songwriting and where that led you to.
Once I started that band, we used to like Earth, Wind, and Fire. Mm-hmm. So we'd jump around just like Verdine White and run around on stage and do crazy stuff. Well, I thought that I was good enough that I could play with the professionals. So there, in my town, there was a professional group. also that we used to go watch, at Eastern Michigan, and they played around town. And I thought, I'm good enough. I could play with them. But at the time, there was no place for me to be. But I watched them anyway. I kept watching them. Eventually, the group broke up, and the guitar player decided to start a new band. And I went to audition for that band. And I immediately got the gig. But that was because not only could I sing and play, but I could do dance and do routines while I was singing and playing. Now, no, first of all, no bass player could sing, not in town. And really no bass player could sing and dance, because that was my Verdine White Earth, Wind, and Fire thing. And since I was the only one in town doing that, it was a big deal. So I became very popular in that time. I toured. I took my band on the Chitlin circuit.
Oh.
I had when I left that band, I became a very popular figure in Ypsilanti. Period.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say I was the top bass player there at the time. But this is what leads me to my songwriting.
Mm-hmm.
So, as I was telling you previously, I went to Eastern Michigan to go hang out up there with the other musicians. And they knew who I was. They knew that I was the popular guy in town. So eventually they called me up one day and asked me if whether I could come and sit in for a recording session. I said, okay. Went downstairs to the studio in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And so I said, okay, where are the charts? Because, see, I learned to read charts also. They said, we don't have a chart. I said, so what do you want me to play? I said, where's the singer? I can pick up the music from the singer. They said, we don't have a singer. I said, okay, so what am I playing? He said, well, look, I'm a rapper. I want you to pick up the bass part from my rap. So he got to rapping, and I got the feel of what he was doing. I just came up with something. And the band thought, wow, this is cool. So the drummer went and ran on the drums, and he started playing. The keyboard player figured out the key. I told him what the key was, and he started playing. The guitar player started playing. And so we were just jamming. At the end of the jam, we said, okay, we're all ready to go. The engineer, the audio engineer said, what, did any of you mess up? This is 10 minutes later. 10 minutes later. We said, no. They said, good, because I recorded everything that you've done. I said, oh, okay. And I left. 30 years later, I happened to be listening to the radio, and this song that I had played was on the radio. It was called Big Apple Rappin', but it wasn't, I didn't hear it first as a single. Now remember, I didn't like rap. And I didn't want to be identified as part of the rap industry. So I called myself B Motley. My father's BJ Motley. So I'm Billy Wilson. So B Billy Motley is my father's last name. So B Motley. And sure enough, the recording was part of a rap history called Big Apple Rappin', the history of hip hop, the early years of hip hop, 1978 through 1982. It was a historic CD about the early years. This is before everybody's identifying themselves as a hip hop rapper, you know. And I went, wait a minute, that's the song I co-wrote. And so years later, I looked up Spider D, the original guy, and he was the president of the Crunk Basketball League, basketball team in Atlanta. And so when I called him, he almost cried. He couldn't even believe that I would have called him because I only met him one time. But that song went down in history as one of hip hop's early rap songs in conjunction with hip hop, hibbity hip hop, you know, Rappers Delight. Around the same time that they came out, we came out.
Wow.
So that's my early songwriting career.
So now you're still writing today?
I write for the Sylvia Moy Foundation. Sylvia Moy was Stevie Wonder's early producer. When Motown was going to get rid of Stevie Wonder, they gave him to Sylvia Moy. She was Motown's first female producer. And throughout that time, she just continued to write hits for him, with him. And many of those hits today, what we're doing, Sylvia, she died a few years ago. And her family controls her estate. She had a recording studio, the same recording studio that Stevie done a lot of his recordings out of. So what I do today is I co-write songs. I remix all of the Stevie Wonder songs that she ever wrote with him. The good ones, the bad ones, all of it. And I'm also their producer, their advisor, I sit on the advisory board. You know, I love the family.
Wow. You have done a whole lot of things. So let me ask you this. Do you write for other people outside of the foundation that you're writing for right now?
Yes, I do. We're doing a song for Brenda Russell, Regina Bell, former ladies of the Supremes. Spider Turner, we're going to be writing songs for him. Bunny DeBarge, whoever comes along.
Wow. So let me ask you this. Who were some of the people who influenced you the most in their music? Who was a big influence in your musical writing?
My greatest influence was just Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Oh, okay. Say where you started way back. Okay.
Yeah. And they're still my greatest influence. I'm the firstborn child. You know, I have 4 in my family, including me. I'm also the firstborn of my generation. My mother was the firstborn child of her generation. My grandmother was the firstborn child of her generation.
Wow.
So I come from a long line of firstborns.
Did your mother sing?
She could sing. Apparently, what she told me and what my father told me too, they did audition for Motown. My father, who was the primary singer, for some reason, he couldn't do the gig because he couldn't read or write. My mother had to read and write for him. For that reason, I guess he was embarrassed. So he couldn't become a Motown artist. They did offer him something. Based on what my mother said, I'm the only one that had done something on major levels. I've done USO tours.
Well, we're going to take a break and we're going to come right back and we're going to talk about that. So let's take a break. Let's pay a few bills and we will be right back.
Detroit Hot Television, on the cutting edge of urban internet TV.
It's a new day for Detroit radio. It's internet radio. Make sure you're streaming in your car. Detroit's digital radio station for a new generation. DetroitHotRadio.com. Terrestrial radio can't do what we do because we are setting a new standard in Detroit. The best Detroit artists are here, along with all your national favorites. The most music 24/7 by all your local favorites, like Anita Baker, Michael Henderson, Kim,
So how did you find your way back in
and the Dramatics. If they're from Detroit, they're heard here. This is where Detroit turns for R&B from yesterday and today.
24-karat magic in the air.
Detroit Hot Radio.
Hi, this is Dianne Hart. Be sure to catch my shows, The Opening Statement, as we interview politicians and special guests on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. on the Lit TV network on Roku. Also, watch Where Are They Now as I interview entertainers of yesterday and today on Detroit Hot TV at 7:30 p.m. on Facebook. Thank you.
You are watching Where Are They Now? With your host, Dianne Hart. Now here's Dianne.
Welcome back to Where They Now. I'm your host, Dianne Hart, and this evening I have the privilege of interviewing Mr. Billy Wilson. So let's talk a little bit about some other people that you collaborated with and then talk about where you've been and some of the things that you've done in your career.
Collaboration. I was with Martha Reeves for numerous years. She had a record label called Itch Records. And I was her right-hand man. She only had 2 employees, me and her. But what I did was I helped her to market her record company and her recording at the time. Now, also, I had been a bass player, a temporary bass player for her throughout the years. Every time she needed a bass player for something, certain events, I'd come and play at that show or that concert. As her promoter, those were the early years of internet. So how we built her fan base, we knew she had a fan base, but we didn't know how to compile the fans together into one place. Well, those were the early years of Facebook. So the Facebook group sites, that's how you compile your fans. You bring them into the Facebook group site. Well, I was all into the internet, even as I am today. Internet, and technology and all of that stuff. That's what I do. And so I was able to get many fans to come into her group. And I had one guy that was the president of her fan club. And of course, he was just as happy as punch to be that. And we compiled these people, hundreds and hundreds of people. We had and we had them to buy her record because she actually bought her records herself. So we had stacks of thousands and thousands of CDs. It was CDs, not records, of CDs that she had to sell. So with her fans, we let them know that she had these CDs. They were brand new. And she would autograph each one if they all sent in $20 to her in a self-addressed stamped envelope. The beauty of it was it worked. And every time she went to the mailbox, because she lives in a condo, and she had to go downstairs to get her mail. Every time she went to the mailbox, there was a stack of envelopes with money in it and self-addressed stamped envelopes. And she, sure enough, she would sign it and send it off. Well, years later, she said, Billy, I'm upset with you. I said, why? She said, because Internal Revenue came after me. I had to pay back. I had to pay taxes. And she said, I ended up paying over $28,000 in taxes. And that was all based on her selling those CDs.
Wow. So she really made a lot of money off of those CDs.
She did. She made quite a bit of money.
That was great. That's great. So whom else have you performed with?
David Ruffin.
I met him before.
Yes, I sat in with him periodically. I wasn't a steady bass player. He only hired me because I would sit and we'd go to this hot dog shop in Detroit, and I'd sit there and listen to him. But he hired me whenever he wanted to do a little dive club in Detroit and, kind of impress the neighbors, the neighborhood.
Right.
So that was my position with him. But I was also the person that whenever he had a complaint or something of that nature, I'd listen to him.
No, that's right. Everybody needs somebody, right?
Everybody.
Right.
That's true.
Right. So now that you're playing for the
Sylvia Moy Foundation.
Right. Now that you're playing for the foundation, are you all going to be releasing some music from the foundation?
As a matter of fact, they have a record company.
Mm-hmm.
Many of the artists that we're releasing, they're not known artists. Our philosophy is the songs have fans. Like You Make Me So Very Happy by Brenda Holloway. Sylvia, she co-wrote that. That song has fans. Some of Stevie Wonder's songs, a lot of his songs have fans. So we just convert those songs, all the songs that Sylvia wrote with Stevie, even some of the offbeat songs. We take those and we convert those songs into a new derivative. And then we'll let a local person or local people come and perform those songs.
That is great. We're going to take one more break and then we'll come back, and I have some questions I'd like to ask you. So let's take a break and we'll be right back. Hi, this is Dianne Hart. Be sure to catch my shows, The Opening Statement, as we interview politicians and special guests on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. on the Lit TV network on Roku. Also, watch Where Are They Now as I interview entertainers of yesterday and today on Detroit Hot TV at 7:30 p.m. on Facebook. Thank you.
You are watching Where Are They Now with your host, Dianne Hart. Now here's Dianne.
Welcome back to Where They Now. I'm your host, Dianne Hart, and this evening I have the awesome pleasure of interviewing Mr. Billy Wilson. What a phenomenal gentleman. Thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity. Let's talk a little bit about what it is that you all are going to be doing. Are you going to put together any shows, or are you just going to release music? Kind of walk us through what it is that you all are going to be doing with the foundation.
We have a variety of things. I have a program called Motown in the School. Mm-hmm. What we're doing is we're taking the concept of a record company and placing it inside of a school. And then we're teaching the kids how to run the back end of a record company. Now, this is not just a studio, because most people, they buy studios and let the kids record. We're not doing that. We're teaching them this is what record companies do. This is how they do. This is how much the cost is. There are costs that come with the record company. We're actually teaching them how to run a record company, as well as showing them how to distribute their music nationwide, worldwide, globally. And we're showing them the promotional part of it, where they're doing concerts around town, and we're getting the major concert promoters to showcase our kids at their concerts. So places like Detroit, for example, we have numerous concerts here, and we just ask the promoters, can we promote our shows, and they will have product to sell, and the proceeds will go to the school. A part of the proceeds will go to the students, the school, and whoever it is that we get to be the record company, whether it be the school that owns the record company or an independent person that has a record company. So we have all the marketing and promoting that we could possibly, we actually help promote on the same level as major record labels promote on.
Okay. So let me ask you this. On what social media platforms can individuals find you all in order to be able to get connected to the foundation?
Yes, MotownAlumniAssociation.com. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on all the platforms. We pretty much are throughout the internet predominantly.
Well, that's pretty exciting. I think that you all are going to turn out some phenomenal young people, and
yes,
they'll better understand the industry, which I think is critically important. Let me ask you this. You know that I am the cousin of Misty Love. Will you consider doing something with the Detroit Black Music Awards?
You know, I always love Misty. So that she don't have to ask. All she needs to do is tell me what she needs me to do.
I think they'll get to meet some phenomenal people at the shows, of course, and be able to do some things. I'm looking forward to it. Of course, I'll be there.
Yeah.
So I will be there.
Keep in mind, I helped her to start the thing. I was with her for 15 years, so it was quite the adventure. I had to expand, and she had to expand, and this was her idea from the get-go. I was always just a helper, You did a
little more than just help. You were standing right there with her. I was there for many, many years. So
that's true.
I know a little bit about the Detroit Black Music Award show, and I'm sure that she appreciated every single thing that you did to assist her. I'd like to ask you something else. Give individuals a little bit of information on what it's like to do what you've done. Give them some nuggets on how they can be successful in this industry that you have been in. Been in it a long time.
Well, what we do at the Motown Alumni Association, we don't just tell people work hard and you'll make it. We give jewels. We give a lot of jewels. I sat on one year. I sat on the Grammys in the school program. The Grammys gave a program up at Michigan State. I sat on the super panel. And the super panel was quite impressive. You know, John Mayer's president of his record company, Gary Graff, the Billboard magazine reporter, was there. There was a lot of superstar people. I was the least of the superstars, I thought. But when they introduced me, the kids just exploded. And I'm like, whoa, how do they know about me? Well, they're college students. They do study who's going to be there. Mm-hmm. And so when we broke off into our separate sections where people want to talk to us personally, individually, everybody had their room, but I didn't have a room. They stuck me in a hall. I didn't really expect anybody to be there. They didn't give me a microphone or anything. The entire hall was full. When we were sitting at the panel and everybody was saying, well, work hard, I was the only one that said, wait a minute. We give you all the tools that you need to work hard. And all the tools are out there for you to work hard. And I said, you hang with me, you're going to get your tools.
Oh, that's right.
And so the kids, the young people, not only did they fill up the hall, I had to scream and holler because I didn't have a PA system and I wanted all the kids to hear me. And I gave them the books to go to on the internet. I gave them all the things that they needed to become celebrities in their own right, some kind of way.
Right.
So that was, for me, that was a big deal.
Absolutely.
So those same children are following me on Facebook. Good. to this day. I got about 50,000 plus followers, you know, on just my personal site, and about 14,000 Motown alumni and my people who have been following me for a long time.
Well, I want to make sure that you put your interview up on your page so that they can hear how happy and proud you are that they are still there with you. And obviously, you've taught them many good things that they can utilize. And that's really what's important, that you don't keep all the jewels for yourself, but you give them away. And that's really important.
That's true. We have, in 2024, Joe Biden gave me a Lifetime Achievement Award, Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award. And why I'm mentioning that is because I feel that every year you have to have achievements.
Oh, yeah.
Establish achievements every year. I gave a $10 million equity grant to Stillman College, a HBCU college in Tuscaloosa, Alabama in 2010. And every year there was always something big that I wanted to do for my own achievements.
Right.
I had, not too long ago, there were numerous awards that I've gotten. You know, and those things, I just stack them on top of one thing after the other. I was part of the Eminem lawsuit in 2010. It was a huge lawsuit. And Eminem was suing about his royalties. And I was the only Black guy in the entire court system with him. I sent in a brief to the judge. Now, in essence, it was a landmark lawsuit. What it said was that record companies have been downloading music and giving it to Apple and streaming services, but the artists would only make whatever their contract said. So, like, for example, Eminem may have made 18%. Well, that was for physical records. For digital records, see, when Eminem started, there weren't digital records.
Right.
So now we got a new contract.
That's great.
And Eminem asked for 50% of his royalties because of that. And because of that lawsuit, every major artist in the world have called me to ask about that lawsuit.
How can they do that as well? How
Yeah,
can
they could do that on the internet. They'll find a court case on the internet,
Right.
and they can use that court case to go get their royalties.
Good.
It was one of the world's biggest music lawsuits that had ever existed.
That is absolutely wonderful. Boy, how time flies. I hear that little music in my ear. I want to thank you for this opportunity to interview you. It has been real. I'm so excited about the things that you're doing. So I will be keeping up with you. I hope to see you when I'm there for the Detroit Black Music Awards this year.
Hopefully.
Yes, absolutely. So you can watch me on The Opening Statement on Roku on the Lit TV network every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. And my show here in Florida is called The Opening Statement. You can also watch me on Where They Now every Thursday night at 7:30 on Detroit Hot Television on Facebook. We're also opening up to many other platforms. You'll be able to get me soon on Instagram and all the other platforms. But don't forget to go to my YouTube page, Dianne Hart, like and subscribe, hit the bell. So every time we put up a new video, you'll get an opportunity to see it. So Billy, I say thank you again. I really, really appreciate you. And I look forward to being on your platform because then your people will get to see me too.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Detroit Hot Television on the cutting edge of urban internet TV.
to go back to your crib, babe. Hurry up and slam that door. The clock is ticking like 1, 2, and 3. Can't you feel this heat, babe? Jumping right off of me. You said you ain't never felt no one like this. As you grab my hand, we hug and kiss. I said I'm yours today, and I'm sexy brown. When you come for me, boy, you know how it goes down. You can do what you gotta do. So why you tripping? I can see you tripping, baby. You can do what you gotta do. So why you tripping? I can see you yelling, baby. You can hug me from the front, you can hug me from the back. Make me grab my head, babe, I'm gonna have a heart attack. You can squeeze me from the right, you can squeeze me from the left. Make me grab my legs, babe, I'm running out of breath. You can hold me from the front, you can hold me from the back. Make me grab my legs, babe, I want it just like that. You can kiss me on the right, you can kiss me on the left. Make me grab my